Hello, this is Noah Code. I'm going to go through an intro on Amazon Web Services using Python. This is the getting started portion. We're going to cover three pieces. Creating an Amazon AWS free tier account to work with. And then the second piece is setting up an AWS Cloud 9 development environment. This is like having your own virtual development machine in the cloud that you can access from any computer or browser through the browser. And then the third piece is we're going to walk through creating down here, starting to use AWS Python with AWS Chalice, which is a lightweight framework that makes deploying and creating Lambdas and REST APIs in the cloud with AWS quick and easy. So let's get this started. By the way, it's a beautiful day out here, so I'm trying recording this outside. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is create an AWS free account. So to do that, we'll go to aws.amazon.com/free. Oh, and the link to this particular walkthrough and tutorial I'll be following, I'll provide in the video details. Okay, so first we're going to create a free account. So we come here to create a free account. Everything we're doing for this tutorial is going to fall under a free tier level. So we'll create a new account. A little tip here is if you have a Gmail account or many other email systems, this is my normal Gmail account, but a lot of systems you can put a little plus sign and then something after it, and it makes a unique looking email address, but it still goes to the same email address. You can set up filters and stuff and that way. All right. So, yay, regular creation stuff. This is where you get to give your account a nickname. So I'll just call it the same thing. All right, I'll say it's a personal account, give it my name. I'm going to fill out this personal information and then I'll come down here and click create account and continue, but I'll pause while I fill that out. Okay, so I filled that section out. I'm going to click create account and continue. And it does ask for a credit card. Nothing we're going to do is going to incur any charges, but this is just in case if you were to go off and do something on your own and like create a large EC2 instance or something, there's some way to track it. But so I'm going to again fill out this personal credit card information and then I'll click secure submit. I'll be right back. All right, I'm going to fill that out. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that payment information. And it asks to confirm identity. It's going to text me so I'll just plug in my phone number here and it's going to text me a security code. So I'll just do that. Grab my phone. Let's see here. And usually this is pretty quick. There we go. So I got my code. All right, account verified. Now we're going to select the basic free plan. That's all that we would need, no additional support. Just to fill this out, I'll say a hobbyist interested in, say, Internet of Things. Okay, great, so we've created our account. We'll go ahead and sign into the console now and start the next part, which is creating the Cloud 9 development environment. I'm going to sign in. The email address that I used was that@gmail.com. All right, so we've signed in. Now for the purposes of this, I'm going to select a region I want to work in. AWS has, at the time right now, about 20 or more regions across the world where there are data centers. In each of those regions, there are at least 3 data centers, which are called availability zones. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to choose US West, Oregon. So that everything's lined up with that. Okay, so the first service I want to use is, there's a search here, or we can go to all services. I just want to choose Cloud 9. Great. And it says it's an interactive, a cloud interactive development environment for writing, running, and debugging code. That's just what we want. So create environment. That's fine about the root account. We're going to give this a name, call it My Awesome Dev Tools. It's fine. We don't need a description. Here, it's going to actually create a virtual machine in the background used on Elastic Compute Cluster EC2, and we're going to keep the defaults to use a T2 Micro, which is free tier eligible, and it's going to use Amazon Linux behind it. It's going to automatically shut off after 30 minutes if we don't use it. It's good. Do next, and we'll do create environment. Okay. While that's creating the environment, it's going to take a couple minutes to do that. One of the things to note is that by default, the Cloud9 environment receives temporary credentials when you're running inside it. And for the work that we're going to be doing with AWS Chalice, we need to tell Amazon that this Cloud9 environment should actually have full access to our entire AWS account, because we're going to be standing up other resources. So we need to do that through assigning an IAM role permissions via policies and role. So let's I'll leave that running there, and we'll go do this on the outside. So we're going to go back to the console. And the next service we're going to use is IAM, the Manage User Access Encryption Keys, the Identity Management System. Okay. So we're going to create a new role. And a role is like a collection of policies and accesses. So we'll create a new role. And we're going to say that this role is going to be applied to EC2 instance. Our Cloud9 is actually running inside an EC2 virtual machine. So we'll choose that. And we're going to tell it to give it administrative access. We don't need any tags. And we'll give it a name. We'll call this, I like this name, Cloud9 Admin. So we create that role. Great. Now we need to assign that role to the EC2 instance so that a virtual machine knows that that's the role it can use. So to do that, we're going to go to Services and choose EC2. And notice we have one running instance. That would be our Cloud9 environment. There it is. That's the virtual machine Cloud9 is running inside of. And we are going to go to Actions, Instance Settings, and attach an IAM role. This gives it that additional permissions. It has right here, Cloud9 Admin. So now our virtual machine that's running Cloud9 will have all those permissions and access. That's great. So we're done with that. We can close that out. And look, our AWS Cloud9 environment's up and running. Yay. So from here, we're going to adjust one of the properties and turn off those temporary credentials. So we go to the Cloud9 menu, Preferences, come down here to User Settings, or AWS Settings, Credentials, and right now AWS Manage Temporary, we'll just turn that off. Okay, there we go. Now our dev environment is set up and ready to go. Now we'll start using AWS Chalice. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new terminal window. So it's a big one. We could use this one down here, but it's nice to have a nice big one that we can use. Okay. And for the sake of this project, we're going to create a new directory called, so we'll do make directory, let's see, AWS intro. And we'll go into that directory. Great. So the first thing we want to do is set up a virtual environment, for our Python. What this does is it allows us to install packages and such locally to this folder instead of to our global system. And no matter if you're using Chalice or not, if you're doing Python development, it's a good practice. So virtual min Chalice environment. So that creates a new environment called Chalice environment. And now we want to activate that. So we'll run source, Chalice environment, and use tab there. By the way, we can see our folder structure expanding here. And under bin, there's an activate script right here. So that's what we want to run. So bin activate. And now it says, okay, now anything we're doing with Python is going to be running inside of this environment. Great. So now we just need to install Python or install Chalice. So just pip install Chalice. And it goes out, downloads Chalice. It installs it as a Python package. Great. We'll go ahead and clear the screen. And we don't need that anymore. And now we're going to create our walkthrough. So let's new Chalice. So we'll say Chalice, new project. And this call walk through intro. All right, so now we have a new project here. You can see I put 2 files in here, an app.py and requirements. That's for the Python libraries, and app.py is where our code is going to be. So we'll go into that folder, and we'll see there's app.py. Great. So 2 things. You can either click on the file here and choose open, or just double click it there, open it here. And by default, it provided a little template. So right now it's going to create, with this little app route, it's going to take this Python function and create a REST API that will say hello world. That's simple. And there's some more information here, how to use parameters. But we're going to use the Chalice media query walkthrough intro. So to do that, I'm going to go back over here to our instructions. So we just did all those steps. Now Chalice does need you to set the region you're working in under this .aws config file. So let's do that. So we can copy paste these lines, put them in the terminal. We can copy paste these lines, for example, or we can just type it, region equals. Now the region code needs to match what you have up here. In this case, I'm using US-West-2. And then we're going to double pipe symbol to append that and put that in there. Great. So now Chalice knows which region we want to stand up our lambdas and services in. Okay. We already did the virtual environment to create Chalice. We activated that. We installed Chalice. We created a new project. We went in that and we listed. Great. So now we're going to replace all the code in the app.py with this, which is essentially what's already in there. It's just we're starting a little simpler instead of with a. We'll just replace that. And this says, hey, Chalice, I want this Python function to be a Lambda function. It's going to be really simple. So we'll just remember to save it. I use Command S to do that. And then we can go back to our environment. And that's all we need to have. Oh, let's go back here. And then we can simply deploy it and then invoke it. So we'll use Chalice deploy to deploy the services. And it actually creates this AWS Lambda walkthrough intro, hello world. And it's creating it right now in our AWS account. In fact, let's actually pull up our AWS account and see if it did that. It's just fun to see this along the way. So if we go to Lambda, which are Lambda is just bits of code, functions running in the cloud. And there we go. We can see that it created that Lambda. It's using Python 3.6. And we can see some configuration information about it. We can even go down here and view the code if we want to. And notice that Chalice just has a little bit of support to get that to run in the cloud smoothly. All right, so coming back to our development environment, we now want to execute that. So we can do it right here from within our development environment by saying Chalice invoke and give it the name of this function, which was, we called it hello world. Oops. There we go. And it just called that function, that actual method in the cloud right now in the AWS Lambda and returned this value. If we go here to the cloud, we can come over here to monitoring. And it takes up to 5 minutes for it to show that there was one hit, so we can check that in a little bit. We can also view the logs for this Lambda, and we can see there was a log created, and we can see that the Lambda started right at this time and then ended, and we can even see that the Lambda took 0.5 milliseconds to run, and it was effectively built 100 milliseconds, and it used 51 megabytes of RAM. All right, and in a little bit, we'll be able to see. There we go. Shows up. There's our one execution that we called. and it shows that it was successful, no errors. All right, it took 0.51 milliseconds. Yay. Great, so congratulations, you just ran your first Chalice Lambda function in the cloud. All right, next we're going to do something a little bit more interesting. Let's use this, and we're going to use some parameters, pass parameters in. Oh, go back to our app.py, we'll add this function. So now this one is hello name, and this provides, when a Lambda is called, whatever parameters are passed into Lambda are passed via this event variable or parameter, and then additional context like environment variable about the Lambda, like the environment variable, what region it's running, which AWS account it's running under, how much memory it has, and all that is provided under context. But all parameters come into event. So we're going to expect that we're going to get a name parameter in an event, and then we're going to say hello to that name instead of just hello world. All right. So we save it. Chalice deploy just redeploys it. Now notice, by the way, that we have the same little app.py, but we have two different Lambdas in it. It makes creating this real easy. And now we can say something. So I'm going to provide echo JSON objects. So it's expecting name. Let's say Bobby. And we're going to pass that into Chalice, invoke, and this is hello name. Let's see if I need anything else. Oh, we need a piping symbol, right? And that's it. So it's going to, instead of this, we're going to use a pipe symbol. So it's going to echo, instead of putting on the console, it's going to send that into the Chalice to invoke it. And there we go. So it ran, and it says hello, Bobby. If we want to say hello, Susie. There we go. You get the idea, right? And if we go back to our Lambda console and see our functions, you can see we actually have two, hello name and hello world. And here under hello name, it may not show up yet. Oh, it does. There we go. It shows that we've invoked it 2 times so far. And the first one time it took 0.245 milliseconds, and the next time it took 0.28. And both of them succeeded. All right. So we're rocking with gas now. Oh, a couple other things. So you can also see, instead of going to the console, you can just see your Lambdas running here using the AWS Lambda console. I like that. You just what do we run? AWS Lambda list functions. So it shows the 2 functions. There's the name, and here's the other name. Now with Chalice, it prefixes the name of the function with the name of the project and environment. So you can have different ways. You can have a staging environment, you can deploy to different accounts, etc. That way it gives it a unique name. So you can have multiple Chalice projects, and each one would be unique. That's cool. Let's do something just a little cooler. I really like this little JQ function. It stands for Java Query to run on the command line. So I'm just going to install that in my environment here. And then I'm going to use that JQ function. So I'm going to do the same AWS list functions, but this time I'm going to pipe that output into the JQ utility and query on this JSON object. So if we go back to our environment, if we look here at this, it has this list of functions, and then under here is the function name. So I just want to get the function name, so I can do that with this. This is just a little extra bonus. I really like using JQ a lot. There we go. So now we just got the 2 function names. Pretty cool. All right, and then last, to complete this, we can use Chalice delete, and it should clean up those functions. If we run our AWS list functions again, we can see now there are no functions. If we go back to our cloud, we just removed them. If we go to our function list, they're gone. And we just cleaned it all up that way. All right. Now from there, I recommend continuing this walkthrough by going through this media query, Chalice Workshop media query intro. It goes through 6 different AWS Lambdas and how to create REST APIs. It's super cool. We just did part 0, which is right here, introduction. And so the next part is part 1, It shows Amazon Rekognition and so on. It goes all the way through building a whole application with S3 and REST APIs and DynamoDB and SNS and Rekognition service. So it creates an application where you can call an API to upload a file. It detects images, tags in that file, puts them into a database, all through a REST API. Very cool. So now that you've gotten started, you can keep going on here, and you can do all that in your SPIFFE Cloud9 development environment. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.